In the frostbitten heart of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where pine and hardwood forests stretch unbroken under a sky that seems to hoard its light, the wilderness holds secrets older than the trees. For 30 years, I've carried one such secret, a memory so sharp it cuts through the life I've built as Thomas Wilson, professor of American Gothic literature at Northern Michigan University. At 10 years old, I was Tommy, a boy shaped by calluses and solitude, sent into those woods with a rifle and a dog, tasked with proving my worth. What I found was no trophy, no triumph, but a creature that defies naming. A thing that hunts by sound and smell, its eyeless face a nightmare etched into my soul. This is my story, a descent into terror that began on a November morning in 1995 and followed me back to the same woods decades later, where the past refused to stay buried. The cabin where I grew up sat 8 miles outside Marquette, at the end of a gravel road that wound through pines so dense they seemed to lean inward, conspiring to block the sun. It was a small, weathered structure, its logs darkened by decades of snow and rain, its windows small and watchful. Inside, the air always smelled of wood smoke and venison stew, a constant reminder of the life my father, Robert Wilson, had carved out for us. He was a man of few words, his face etched with lines from years of labor, construction by day, hunting and trapping by season. His philosophy was simple: boys became men through hardship. A Wilson pulls his weight, he'd say, his eyes scanning the treeline as if expecting something to emerge. By 7, I was hauling firewood and cleaning traps. By 8, I could split logs with an axe, the blade biting deep into the wood with a satisfying thud. By 9, I tracked deer through snow, my breath clouding in the frigid air, and helped butcher what we brought home. These weren't choices but expectations, woven into the fabric of our isolated existence. My mother, Sarah, was the counterbalance. Quiet, kind, her hands always busy with mending or cooking. She never challenged my father openly, but her small acts of defiance, like slipping me a warm biscuit before chores, were lifelines in a world ruled by his stern gaze. My 10th birthday, November 1995, brought no cake or colorful presents. Instead, my father stood in the dim kitchen, his calloused hand extended, holding a .22 rifle. "A gun makes you a provider, not a hero," he said, his voice heavy with meaning. "You respect what it does. You honor what it takes." The rifle was cold in my hands, its stock worn smooth by use. I felt its weight, not just in my arms but in my chest, a burden of expectation. My mother watched from the doorway, her lips pressed tight, saying nothing. That night, she crept into my room with a small package, a brass compass, my initials engraved on the back. "So you always find your way home," she whispered, her eyes soft but worried. My true companion in those years wasn't my parents but Bandit, an Airedale Terrier with wiry fur and boundless energy. My father brought him home when I was 8, not as a pet but a working dog, meant to track game and guard the property. From the first night, when he curled against my chest in bed, he was mine. His coarse fur, his eager bark when I returned from school, his shadow at my heels during chores. They anchored me in a world that felt too big, too cold. He slept at the foot of my bed, his warmth a shield against the darkness beyond the cabin walls. That fall, as Thanksgiving loomed, my father decided I was ready for a greater test. Our extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, would gather at my grandfather's larger property, 20 miles deeper into the woods. "Time you showed everyone what you're made of," he said one evening, the fire crackling in the wood stove. He reached behind his chair and pulled out his most prized possession, a Winchester rifle, its barrel gleaming, its stock bearing the scars of his father's hands. "You're going to provide the main course this year," he continued, holding the rifle with reverence before passing it to me. "Bring back something that'll make everyone proud." The Winchester was heavier than my .22, its weight a tangible promise of manhood. My mother looked up from her mending, concern flashing across her face before she hid it. "He's ready, Robert," she said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying doubt. My father nodded. "He's a Wilson." Pride swelled in me, mixed with a flutter of fear. This was no practice hunt. This was real, a chance to earn my father's approval, to prove I belonged. "Don't let me down," he said, his eyes holding mine. There was something else there, worry, perhaps, or fear, but it vanished behind his usual sternness. "I won't," I promised, clutching the rifle. Bandit would come with me, as always. I went to bed visualizing the perfect shot, imagining my father's rare smile. I didn't know then that the woods held something no bullet could kill. I woke before dawn, too excited to sleep. The Winchester leaned against my bedroom wall, its silhouette a silent challenge. Bandit sensed my mood, his tail thumping as I dressed in layers. Flannel, jacket, wool cap, against the November chill. In the kitchen, a thermos of hot chocolate and a wrapped sandwich waited on the counter. My mother's note reading, "Good luck, Tommy. Be careful." My father was outside, checking his truck before work. He stopped me at the door, adjusting my jacket collar. "Remember what I taught you," he said. "One clean shot. Make it count. Bandit stays with you at all times," he added, his voice carrying an unusual edge. "Back before dark. No exceptions." I nodded, the Winchester heavy in my hands. "A Wilson provides," he called as he climbed into his truck. I repeated the motto, standing taller, and set out with Bandit at my side. The forest welcomed us as dawn spread through the trees, frost crunching under my boots, my breath clouding in the air. The Upper Peninsula in November was a world of cold beauty, its pines dusted with snow, its streams half frozen. Bandit trotted ahead, nose to the ground, his focus mirroring my own. This hunt was my chance to prove myself, not just to my father but to the family waiting at grandfather's table. Our property bordered state forest land, creating an unbroken wilderness that stretched for miles. Usually, I felt at home here, free from my father's watchful eyes. Today it was a test. I followed deer trails, checking for fresh tracks, rubbed bark or droppings, as my father had taught me. Bandit ranged ahead, glancing back to ensure I followed. Hours passed, one, then two, then three. My shoulders ached from the Winchester's weight, and disappointment settled in my gut. I'd seen nothing but squirrels and chickadees, no deer, no game worth shooting. "What am I going to tell Dad?" I asked Bandit, scratching his ears. "That I walked for hours and came back empty-handed?" His brown eyes met mine, steady and understanding. I pushed on, heading toward a marsh where migratory birds sometimes stopped. I pictured dragging a buck home, my father clapping my shoulder, saying, "That's my boy." The fantasy fueled me as the sun climbed higher. Just as I considered turning back, a sound broke the silence, the honking of geese overhead. I raised the Winchester, tracking the lead bird through the iron sights. "Lead the target," my father's voice echoed. "They're moving faster than you think." I exhaled, steadied my arms, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked, its report shattering the forest's quiet. A goose folded mid-flight, plummeting through the branches. Joy surged through me as I ran to the fallen bird. It was a clean kill through the body, not messy. I lifted it, still warm, pride swelling in my chest. Not a deer, but respectable for Thanksgiving, shot with grandfather's gun. "Look, Bandit," I said, turning to show him. But Bandit's posture had changed. Rigid, ears forward, fur bristling. A low growl rumbled in his chest, a sound I'd never heard. "What is it, boy?" I whispered, reaching for his collar. Before I could touch him, he bolted, shooting between the trees, barking wildly. "Bandit!" I shouted, shoving the goose into my game bag. I chased him, the Winchester clutched tight, branches whipping my face. Bandit never disobeyed, never ran off. Something was wrong. His barking led me through pines and across a creek, changing from alarm to pain and fear. My chest tightened as I pushed through bushes into a small clearing. A deer lay on its side, its throat torn open, blood soaking the leaves, steam rising in the cool air. I froze, but a worse sound came from my left. Bandit's whimper, abruptly silenced. 20 feet away, behind a fallen log, Bandit's body twitched. His stomach was torn open, guts spilling onto the ground. Bent over him was something my mind couldn't process. A hairless creature with pale, taut skin stretched over bones, making wet, slurping sounds as it fed. Its long fingers, with too many joints, pulled at Bandit's insides. The Winchester hung useless in my numb hands. The creature stopped, going still as if paused. Slowly, it turned, revealing a face from a nightmare. Smooth dents where eyes should be, 2 slits for a nose, a mouth stretching too wide, filled with jagged teeth. It didn't look at me but pointed its face my way, nostrils flaring as it sniffed. I realized it couldn't see me, but it knew I was there. My scent, my breathing, something betraying me. "Don't move," my mind screamed. I stood frozen, watching it feed on Bandit, the wet sounds filling the clearing. Paused again, tilting its head, testing the air. After an eternity, it returned to its meal. I wanted to shoot, the Winchester heavy in my hands, but terror glued me in place, convinced any sound would draw those teeth to my throat. Finally, it straightened, wiping its hands across its mouth, smearing dark fluid. It grabbed Bandit's remains and the deer carcass, dragging them with unnatural strength into the denser forest. Only then did my body unlock. I dropped to my knees, a sob rising but swallowed. The Winchester slipped from my hands, the goose forgotten. I ran, branches tearing at my face, roots tripping me, the forest a maze of terror. Every shadow held the creature, every sound its return. I stumbled onto a familiar deer trail, then saw the cabin ahead. Bursting through the door, I let it slam against the wall. My father jerked upright from his chair, surprise turning to confusion. "Tommy, what happened?" His eyes dropped to my empty hands. Then behind me, "Where's the gun?" "Bandit's dead," I gasped, shaking. There was a thing in the woods. Killed him. A monster with no eyes, fingers with too many joints. My father's jaw tightened. "What thing?" "It was eating a deer, then Bandit," I said, the words sounding childish. "Stop!" He cut me off. "Where's my father's rifle?" My mother appeared from the kitchen, worry creasing her face. "Robert, what's going on?" "He came back without the Winchester," my father said flatly. "Says a monster got Bandit." "I'm not lying," I cried. "It tore him open right in front of me." My father's expression shifted to disappointment. "Making up stories won't bring back the rifle." "Robert, look at him," my mother said, moving toward me. "Something happened. We're going back to get the truth," my father said, grabbing his jacket. My stomach plunged. "No, Dad. It's still out there." He paused. "You left the Winchester because you got scared. Fine, you're 10. But lying? A Wilson faces the truth." My mother touched my shoulder. "Maybe let him calm down first, Robert. The sun sets soon." "We go now," he said, holding out my coat. My legs barely carried me as we left, my mother watching from the door, her face tight with worry. The woods felt different, threatening in a way they never had. My father walked ahead, silent, his shoulders set. Usually he'd point out tracks or name trees. Now only our boots on leaves broke the quiet. "Dad, I'm not making it up," I tried. "We'll see," he said, his voice clipped. The clearing was empty. No Bandit, no deer, but dark blood stained the leaves and moss, the earth disturbed in violent patterns. I pointed. "See? That's Bandit's blood. And there, the deer's." The thing dragged them away. My father crouched, touching a stain, his face unreadable. He walked to the log, pulling out the Winchester. "Found this, at least," he said, checking it, jaw tight. "Animals drag carcasses all the time. A coyote probably got your dog." "It wasn't a coyote," I insisted. "I know what I saw." He ignored me. "Where's the goose you shot?" I froze. In my panic, I dropped it. "I forgot it when I ran." His eyes narrowed. "So, you shot a goose, Bandit ran off, and you dropped everything and ran home with a monster story. That's not how I raised you." "I'm telling the truth," I said, pointing to the blood. He studied the ground, his face softening for a moment, then hardening. "Let's go home before dark." As we turned, I glanced back. The blood stains looked black in the fading light, a warning of something still out there. "Now, where's that goose?" my father asked, squinting at the forest floor. I pointed vaguely. "Back that way, I think." He grunted, starting in that direction, searching the ground. "We're not leaving a good bird out here," he said. "And you need to learn running away doesn't solve problems." I followed, silent, my body stiff. Arguing was futile. We searched for 10 minutes, the light fading, the sun sinking behind the trees. Then I noticed the silence. No birds, no squirrels, just our footsteps and breathing. "Dad," I whispered. "Listen." He stopped, turning his head. His eyes narrowed as he heard it too. The total silence. "Let's head back," I pleaded. "Not without the goose," he said, but his voice wavered. He bent to check leaves, the Winchester slung over his shoulder. A branch snapped behind us. I grabbed his sleeve. "Did you hear that?" "Just the wind," he said, but the air was still. Then came a sound that froze me. A wet, raspy breathing, like someone choking, from behind pine trees 30 yards away. My father stiffened, grabbing the Winchester, raising it. The creature emerged, crawling on all fours, its long limbs bending unnaturally, its pale skin dirty white in the dusk, its eyeless face pointed at us, nostrils flaring. My father's doubt vanished, his jaw tightening. "Don't move," he whispered. The creature stepped forward, jerky and deliberate. "When I shoot, run," he said. "Straight home. Don't look back." The Winchester fired, the sound echoing. The creature jerked, black fluid spraying from its shoulder, but it didn't fall. Its mouth opened, revealing needle-thin teeth, and it charged, scrambling impossibly fast. "Run!" my father shouted, yanking me back. We sprinted, branches whipping our faces. His grip on my arm saved me when I tripped, hauling me upright. The creature's wet breathing grew louder, then faded as we pushed harder. The cabin appeared, and we burst into the yard, my father pushing me inside past my mother, slamming the door. "Robert, what happened?" she asked, her face pale. He didn't answer, his hands shaking as he loaded the Winchester, dropping a shell. "Get away from the window," he snapped as I peered out. He took my place, the rifle ready, watching the treeline. My father stayed by the window all night, the Winchester across his lap. My mother's questions got short answers. "Some kind of animal," he said finally. "Attacked bandit, came after us." "What kind?" she pressed. "Don't know." I wanted to tell her the truth, but his sharp look silenced me. We slept in the living room, my mother and I on the couch, my father awake, watching. By morning, he drove to town, returning with deadbolts, window locks, and canned food. He installed them methodically, testing each lock. The next day, he planted a for sale sign by the mailbox, then sold his hunting gear, bow, knives, trophies, keeping only the Winchester and ammunition. The cabin became a fortress, but the woods remained a threat. School resumed, but I was distant, haunted by bandits' death, the creature's breathing. My teacher, Mrs. Patterson, noticed my drawings. Pale skin, too many joints, eyeless holes. "Is everything okay at home?" she asked. I nodded, saying nothing. At home, my father burned the drawings in the wood stove. "Some things we keep in the family," he said. "People will think you're crazy. They'll think we're both crazy." That night, I overheard my parents arguing. "We should move," my mother said. "This is our home," my father replied. "I won't be chased off." "What about Tommy? He's not the same." "He'll be fine," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. They stayed, and winter deepened, snow piling against the cabin. I avoided the woods, watching the treeline through frosted windows. In spring, my father built a 6-foot fence around the property, reinforced with chicken wire. "Can we get another dog?" I asked one evening. "There's no replacing Bandit," he said, "and a dog wouldn't protect you from that thing." "Is it still out there?" I asked. He didn't answer, but his silence was enough. Decades later, at 38, I was Professor Thomas Wilson, far removed from Tommy. My life at Northern Michigan University was orderly, my office a refuge of books and essays. But grading a student's paper about a childhood home lost to fire cracked open memories I'd buried. The Upper Peninsula's November darkness brought them rushing back. Bandit, the Winchester, the creature. A call from my Uncle Jim changed everything. My father had suffered a minor stroke, his health declining. Duty pulled me back to the cabin, a 5-hour drive through familiar landmarks, gas station, paper mill, County Road 553. The cabin looked smaller, the fence my father built sagging, leaves piled at its base. The for sale sign was gone. He'd never left. Inside, the air was musty, the curtains drawn. My father sat in his armchair, the Winchester across his lap, his face lined, hair gray. "You came," he said, his voice rough. "Of course," I replied. "Jim said you needed help." His hand tightened on the rifle, his eyes flickering with fear. "It's back," he whispered. I filled my veins. "What do you mean?" "Started 3 months ago," he said. "Pets disappeared, Miller's dog, Anderson's cat, 3 more. Then the Miller boy, Peter, 10 years old, vanished riding his bike. Same as before." The name echoed. Peter Miller, another boy lost in 1995. "You've seen it?" I asked. He nodded. "By the old oak. Same everything." I cleaned the cabin, bought supplies, and researched. The local newspaper confirmed Peter's disappearance. Search parties called off. Library archives and hunter forums revealed a pattern: pets, hikers, then a child, repeating every few decades. At a diner, I overheard hunters discuss missing game cameras, deer fleeing unseen threats. The creature was hunting again. On the 5th night, my father woke me, pointing to the window. In the moonlight, a pale figure moved near the treeline, its limbs bending wrong, its eyeless face sniffing the air. It seemed to look at us, then vanished. The next morning, I found a deer at the fence line, its organs gone, head missing. A precise, unnatural kill. "It knows we're here," my father said. I called the police, but the officer dismissed it as coyotes or poachers. "It's the same thing that took Peter Miller," I said. "It took another Peter Miller in 1995. The officer stepped back, filing a report without comment. That evening, I decided we couldn't wait. "I'm going out there," I told my father. "We need evidence, pictures, tracks." He stood, grabbing the Winchester. Not alone. We prepared flashlights, a hunting knife, the rifle. At dusk, we crossed the broken fence, the forest closing around us. Broken branches and strange footprints led to an ancient oak, its bark scarred with claw marks. The forest went silent, and the creature attacked from above, knocking my father down. I stabbed it, the knife sinking into its side, black fluid oozing. It screeched, turning to me. My father fired, hitting its chest. It staggered but fled, leaving a trail of black fluid. We followed it to a cave, the air thick with rot. Inside, bones littered the floor. Animal, human, fresh and old. A nest of torn clothing held a child's sneaker, marked Peter Miller. I called 911, reporting the remains. Officers arrived, their professionalism cracking at the sight. The cave became a crime scene. Peter's remains confirmed. "What happened to it?" I asked my father as we left. "It's still out there, wounded but alive," he said. "Will it come back?" His hand tightened on the Winchester. "Maybe, but not soon." We walked home, the forest no longer holding the same power. We'd faced our terror and survived. At the property's edge, my father paused. "You were right to come back," he said. I nodded, understanding. Some things had to be faced. What would you do if you saw something impossible in the woods? Run, or face it, knowing the truth might cost everything? Could you keep such a secret, or would you risk everything to warn others?